Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today in this video we are going to cover top 50 important MCQs from the Foreign Exchange Management Act and Companies Act, especially for the IBPS Law Officer exam. So let's start the video. What is the primary objective of the Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999? To facilitate external trade and promote an orderly foreign exchange market. Which regulatory authority is primarily responsible for administering the provisions of the Foreign Exchange Management Act? Reserve Bank of India. Under the Act, a person resident in India must have resided in India during the preceding financial year for more than 182 days. A transaction which alters the assets or liabilities outside India of a person resident in India is classified as a capital account transaction. Which entity holds the power to specify the permissible limits and classes of capital account transactions? The Reserve Bank of India, in consultation with the central government. A transaction other than a capital account transaction, including payments for foreign trade and living expenses of parents, is defined as a current account transaction. No person shall deal in or transfer any foreign exchange to any person other than a authorized person. An authorized person under the Foreign Exchange Management Act legally includes which of the following? An authorized dealer, money changer, or offshore banking unit. If any amount of foreign exchange is due to a person resident in India, they must take responsible steps to realize and repatriate it to India. Who appoints the adjudicating authorities for holding inquiries into contraventions under the Foreign Exchange Management Act? The central government. An appeal against the order of an adjudicating authority must generally be filed within how many days? 45 days. What is the maximum penalty for a contravention under the Act where the amount is quantifiable? Up to thrice the sum involved. If the amount involved in a contravention is not directly quantifiable, the penalty can extend up to 2 lakh rupees. For a continuing contravention under the Act, the daily penalty after the first day can extend up to 5,000 rupees. Which specific agency is responsible for investigating contraventions and enforcing the provisions of the Foreign Exchange Management Act? The Directorate of Enforcement. Can a person be subjected to civil imprisonment for failing to pay a penalty imposed under the Act? Yes, but only after issuing a show cause notice and providing a hearing. When an exporter sends goods outside India, they are statutorily required to furnish a declaration to the Reserve Bank of India. A person resident in India can hold, own, or transfer foreign currency or foreign property only if it was acquired while they were a resident outside India or inherited from a person resident outside India. Which authority holds the power to compound any contravention under the Foreign Exchange Management Act? The Directorate of Enforcement or Reserve Bank of India. What happens when a contravention is successfully compounded under the Act? No further proceeding shall be initiated or continued regarding the specific contravention. If an offence under the Act is committed by a company who is presumed to be legally liable, every person in charge of and responsible to the company for the conduct of its business. In proceedings under the Act involving a culpable mental state, the burden of proving innocence lies heavily on the accused person. The Foreign Exchange Management Act replaced which previous, more stringent legislation? The Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. Which central ministry exercises direct administrative control over the Directorate of Enforcement? Ministry of Finance. Does the Foreign Exchange Management Act have an overriding effect on other conflicting laws in India? Yes, it has an overriding effect on inconsistent laws. What is the absolute minimum number of members required to incorporate a private company? 2 members. What is the maximum statutory limit on the number of members in a private company? 200 members. What is the absolute minimum number of members required to incorporate a public company? 7 members. Which innovation corporate structure allowing a single individual to form a company was introduced by the Companies Act? One person company. What is the minimum number of directors required for a public company? 3 directors. What is the minimum number of directors required for a private company? 2 directors. Under the Companies Act 2013, every company must have at least one resident director. What defines a resident director? A director who has stayed in India for at least 182 days in the financial year. What is the maximum number of directorships an individual can hold simultaneously, including alternate directorships? 20 directorships. Which class of companies is statutorily mandated to constitute a corporate social responsibility committee? Companies with a net worth of rupees 500 crore or more. What is the minimum percentage of average net profits that qualifying companies must spend on corporate social responsibilities initiative? 2% of the average net profits. What is the default quorum required for a general meeting of a private company? 2 members personally present. What is the maximum permissible time gap between 2 consecutive annual general meetings of a company? 15 months. Within what specific time frame must a newly incorporated company hold its first annual general meeting? Within 9 months from the date of closing of the first financial year. Who possesses the legal authority to call an extraordinary general meeting of a company? The board of directors or upon a valid requisition made by members. For a special resolution to be successfully passed at a general meeting, the votes cast in favor must be at least 3 times the votes cast against. Which specialized quasi judicial body was established to consolidate corporate jurisdiction and handle matters under the Companies Act? The National Company Law Tribunal. What is the prescribed time limit to file an appeal from an order of the National Company Law Tribunal to the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal? 45 days. For how long is a shelf prospectus legally valid from the date of the first offer of securities? 1 year. A prospectus which does not include complete particulars regarding the quantum or exact price of the securities being offered is known as a red herring prospectus. Shares issued by a company to its directors or employees at a discount or for consideration other than cash are formally termed as sweat equity shares. The Companies Act 2013 mandates the rotation of statutory auditors for listed companies. What is the maximum consecutive tenure for an individual auditor? One term of 5 years. Which of the following constitutes a valid ground for the compulsory winding up of a company by the National Company Law Tribunal? Default in filing financial statements or annual returns for 5 consecutive financial years. Which specialized statutory body is specifically empowered by the Companies Act 2013 to investigate massive white collar corporate crimes? The Serious Fraud Investigation Office. Under the Companies Act, the term key managerial personnel legally includes which group of officers? The Chief Executive Officer, Managing Director, Company Secretary, and Chief Financial Officer. Every company is required to prepare a formal report of the board of directors to be attached to the financial statements. This is mandated under which section? Section 134. That's all for today. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next video.